A lot of people have suspected that Ronda Rousey would have came back at 2020. Now, for obvious reasons, she will not be coming back probably all of 2021 due to her pregnancy and her personal life. And I think she's overall just done with professional wrestling. But last year, I think deep down they were trying their absolute best to get Ronda Rousey back on track. So I decided to do a story, and that is what if Ronda Rousey were to come back in 2020, and how would that go about things? So let's just go to 2020. So we're gonna start off the night after SummerSlam, Monday Night Raw. Asuka has just won the Raw Women's Championship from Sasha Banks. Sasha and Asuka have a rematch in a lumberjack match, whatever. Asuka wins the match, and then you hear bad reputation. Ronda Rousey comes out. Asuka looks at Ronda, and then she just points at the Raw Women's Championship. And then at the next pay per view, which will be Evolution 2. Instead of Payback, we're gonna do Evolution 2 because honestly, that pay per view, it was just a bunch of filler matches. The only main thing that happened was Reigns becoming Universal Champion. And if you've been watching, more particularly my Jeff Hardy rebooking, you should know that in this timeline, Roman Reigns should have signed the contract and then just go immediately after Strowman and Bray and steal the belt like that. That's what I would have done differently. But instead of Payback, we'll do Evolution 2. Now, we're going to have just a variety of women having matches from NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. The main event, of course, will be Asuka and Ronda Rousey, but also in the card, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax win the women's tag team championships from Bayley and Sasha Banks. That's important later. And another thing that's important later, Bianca Belair will win a women's number one contender battle royal, last eliminating Lacey Evans, which is very important. But the main event, Asuka versus Ronda Rousey, they go a good 15 minutes, showing us that Ronda Rousey still got it. And the winner, Ronda Rousey, you guessed it. If you're going to have Ronda Rousey come in, she's going to have to be the Raw Women's Champion immediately. The next night on Raw, Asuka wants Ronda Rousey in a rematch, but Bianca Belair just won a battle royal. She's like, hey, you lost, and I've been waiting for this big opportunity ever since my arrivals from WrestleMania, so you should go back in line, Asuka. And that's when Shane McMahon comes out and says, hey, if you girls want a shot at Ronda Rousey, let's see what you got. So the main event of that night will be Asuka versus Bianca Belair. Winner faces Ronda Rousey at Clash of Champions, which gets interrupted by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, with Ronda Rousey standing tall over them. Shane McMahon realizes that that they both got screwed over, so he decides to make a deal. At Clash of Champions, it will be Ronda Rousey, Asuka, and Bianca Belair. Why did I add Bianca Belair? Because keep in mind, literally months later, she's gonna win the Royal Rumble and main event WrestleMania. And let's be honest, Bianca Belair was a nobody all of 2020. This is gonna be at least a way to showcase what she's got in a must-see match. So we get to see some of Bianca Belair. Ronda Rousey has beef with Asuka, and it's a great way of just showing three random women with three different styles showing off, and it will be a great match. So at Clash of Champions, it's Ronda, Asuka, and Bianca Belair. Ronda Rousey retains once again, and you start noticing a faction between Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax, them being the champions and all. But we have occasionally like people like Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose wanting up the challenge. Ronda Rousey offers Mandy Rose a shot at the Raw Women's Championship, which Ronda Rousey squashes her in like a second. That's just great, just to showcase what kind of heelish type of character Ronda Rousey is. Like, you guys just hate me because you ain't me, and Ronda Rousey could be a natural heel. I think she works way much better as a heel, anyways. But Survivor Series comes, and it's champion versus champion, Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks, a rematch from the Royal Rumble 2018. Now, a lot of people think that that match was great. I think it's a little overrated. I know people overhype it. People even say it's one of the best matches of the decade. It's not. However, this Sasha Banks that we got in 2020, this one, I guarantee you, will give us one of the best matches of the year. So it's Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey. And surprise to everybody, Sasha Banks wins. It's like, holy shit, Sasha Banks is tired of losing. She's going to bring her A game, and Ronda Rousey is pissed. She is furious that she lost a match to Sasha Banks. But that's not the point. She is realizing that she's just not the same Ronda Rousey as she was back then. So she wants, just to be the best. Also, on Survivor Series, we're gonna do Team Raw versus Team SmackDown Women, and instead of the sole survivor being Lana, it's going to be Mickie James, showcasing that Mickie James is once again a superstar once again. And around this time, Mickie James wants a shot at the Raw Women's Championship. She's been waiting forever for this chance, so that's what we're getting. We're getting Ronda Rousey versus Mickie James at TLC 2020. Obviously, Ronda Rousey wins, but in a more in a more cynical way. And Mickie James believes that she got screwed, so they want a rematch. So at TLC, or not, my bad, at the Royal Rumble, we're getting Ronda Rousey versus Mickie James, the rematch. Side note: the last Raw of the last Raw of 2020, the main event will be Asuka versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, with Asuka having a mystery partner where we'll have a mystery partner, and that person will be Io Shirai. I think Io Shirai should have dropped the belt to the NXT Women's Championship to Candice LeRae. That would have been way much better for business instead of Raquel Gonzalez. And then we have Io Shirai debut on the main roster, teaming up with Asuka. I know it's cliche to put, Japanese superstars together, but, they are real friends. They are great in the ring together. They could make great chemistry. And this could be a great way to bring in Io Shirai and probably not make the same mistake as Kairi Sane, as just trying to make her too corny. Io Shirai is more of a badass. So, anyways, Io Shirai and Asuka are your new women's tag team champions. Why not Charlotte? I think we could hold off on Charlotte coming back. Let's bring her to SmackDown. I think she fits way much better in SmackDown than she does on Raw. We'll bring her to SmackDown after WrestleMania. That way we don't have to worry about messing up the timeline completely. And I think Bianca Belair and Charlotte could make a great program on SmackDown anyways. So yeah, at the Royal Rumble, you guessed it, Bianca Belair wins the Royal Rumble, and then she goes on to face Sasha Banks in the main event of WrestleMania. But around this time, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are having their beef, and then Ronda Rousey's back off, and for a second, it looks like Ronda Rousey is siding more with Nia Jax, considering her past and how she tells Baszler, listen, you couldn't even beat Becky Lynch last year. What makes you think you're great of a star? At least Nia Jax, I know what kind of character she is, what kind of superstar she is. So just back off. And Shayna Baszler's all right. And then that same night after that promo, it's announced that we have a six-woman tag team match. It's Asuka, Io Shirai, and Mickie James, with Io Shirai getting a pinfall victory against Ronda Rousey. So naturally, I think the next step is to do Ronda Rousey versus Io Shirai for the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber. Ronda Rousey wins. It's a good match. Then Nia Jax attacks Ronda Rousey and then holds the Raw Women's Championship. Shayna Baszler comes to Rousey and says, I told you that this woman is not to be trusted. And then Ronda Rousey's like, okay, I learned my lesson, but now I'm going to kick her ass. And at Fastlane, we do Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. Ronda Rousey wins yet again. And then after the match, Shayna Baszler attacks Ronda Rousey, beats the crap out of her, and says, don't trust anybody. And then Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, they go back through their UFC storyline and all the stuff. So they are going balls to the walls. They're going to like murder each other. Matter of fact, this will be the steel cage match, not Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. Honestly, I felt like that should have been a last man standing match or a falls count anywhere match. That would have been way much better. But Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, they get the steel cage stipulation. It will bring back the UFC style. It will be a big draw. Two UFC superstars competing at WrestleMania in a wrestling style. So people are going to be like, holy shit, what's going to happen? And, after Shayna Baszler's crappy year, I think Ronda Rousey will likely put over Shayna Baszler because they're friends and there's no way they're not going to blow off this once in a lifetime opportunity. So Shayna Baszler wins the Raw Women's Champion after a whole year of failure. She beats Ronda Rousey in a steel cage match, and then Ronda Rousey properly retires for good. I think this is the best way they could have brought back Ronda Rousey if she were to come back in 2020. Then Shayna Baszler has new challengers, Asuka and Io Shirai, who are the tag champions. If you're wondering what I do with them at WrestleMania, they'll take on Bayley and Carmella just so I can have Bayley and Carmella compete in legit matches. And that would be good. Io and Asuka versus Bayley and Carmella. Tell me you don't want to see that. And obviously Asuka and Io win because Asuka and Io could use a WrestleMania moment more than Bayley and Carmella. And Bayley's had two, so who cares? Anyways, Shayna Baszler has now new challengers. If Mickie James doesn't get released, she could go after her. We could have many opportunities for Shayna Baszler now that she has more challengers. And of course, Rhea Ripley debuts the Raw after. So there's a lot more for Shayna Baszler to do now that she is the Raw Women's Champion. And Ronda Rousey fades away. What do you guys think of this rebooking? It's me, the ALEXX Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out.